Luke 16:12, and if you have not proved faithful in that which belongs to another person, whether God or man, who will give you that which is your own? So God tests us many times in having us need to serve or work for somebody else, and he checks our faithfulness to see if we actually are the kind of person that can be trusted with something of our own. If you're not going to be faithful on the job that you've got, you won't be faithful even if you owned your own business. If you work for somebody else, especially if you're in a position of any kind of authority where you have any discretion over any of the money, don't waste your employer's money. Spend it like it were your own. Be on time for work. If you're paid for an 8-hour day, then work an 8-hour day. If you have insurance benefits, use them like you were paying for the insurance. I'll be honest with you, to me, this is some of the most important things you can hear. Because it's these little behind-the-scene things that really mean so much more to God than what we can even possibly imagine. Always do what's right, especially if nobody's looking. Take care of the building you work in like it were your own home. Matthew 25 is probably one of the best chapters about this kind of stuff, and you're probably familiar with it, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But it says, a man was going on a long journey, and he called his servants together, and he entrusted them with his property. Well, this is talking about the things that God has entrusted us with. And it says he's going to come back someday and require an accounting of what he's given us. To one man, he gave 5 talents, about $5,000, to another 2, to another 1, and I love this. To each one, he gave in proportion to their own personal ability to handle it. God doesn't give everybody the same thing because everybody can't handle the same thing. And so we don't need to be jealous of what somebody else has. We just need to do the best we can with what God's given us. And then if we're faithful in that, God will give us increase and there will be more. Matter of fact, I think sometimes God will bless somebody with what you want in front of you just to see if you'll be jealous. Do you know it's a big test of spiritual maturity to be happy for somebody else who's getting what you want that you don't have yet? He who received 5 talents went at once and traded them and got 5 more. He who had the 2 talents traded his and got 2 more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master came back to settle accounts with his servants. Can I just tell you tonight that Jesus is coming back, and it may not be all that long. I notice in the Bible, in the New Testament, the apostles were always talking about the Lord's coming soon. Be unselfish, the Lord's coming soon. The Lord's going to return soon. Encourage one another because the Lord's coming soon. And so in the last year, I've been trying to tell our crowds more, the Lord's coming back soon. If you would have to change something in your life, if I said Jesus is coming back next Saturday, and you believe me, is there anything you'd have to change in your life to get ready for his coming? Well, if there is, then change it now. Because Romans 14 says every man is going to stand before God and give an account of his life. We're not going to give an account for somebody else's life. That's why we really should get around to just minding our own business and making sure we're right with God. Because God's not going to ask me about Dave. He's not going to ask you about me. He's not going to ask me about the Barnetts. He's going to ask me to give an accounting of what he has entrusted me with. And I want to hear what these people heard. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will now put you in charge of much. Amen. Maybe you're wanting more than what you have. Now, I don't know this, but maybe you're wanting more than what you have. But if you really look at your life, maybe, just maybe, you're not being faithful with what you've already got. Maybe, I don't know. And of course, then there was the one servant who went and hid his stuff in the ground, and his master said to him in verse 26, "You wicked, lazy, idle servant." God is not happy with us when we do nothing with what he's given us, but waste it. The servant who did nothing lost what he'd been given. Proverbs 20, verse 6, "Most men will proclaim each his own goodness, but who can find a faithful man?" I want to be a faithful person. I want to hear that, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord." But I'm not going to hear that if I don't make right choices now, and neither will you.
We hope you enjoyed this teaching. To get more from Joyce, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing.